Hi, my name is Deviant Ollam. You may have seen me at various events speaking about locks and lockpicking. I run the Lockpick Village at DefCon, and I've appeared at Hope, DefCon, HackInTheBox, a number of conferences in Europe, first time in Amsterdam, and even lectured the cadets at the Military Academy at West Point. I love to bring lockpicking and physical security to events like this for one key reason. You can talk all day long about how to patch your servers, how to harden your firewall, how to always be making sure that the version that you're running is the right version and there's no holes. You can audit your code, you can check all of your logs, but none of that matters if someone waltzes in your server room and takes the media right out the door. It's really bad if someone can get in and out without you ever knowing. It's bad enough if you come in and you read the door was broken. You say, oh my God, people have stolen from us. So destructive entry is a problem, and I tell people how to harden their infrastructure and their facility. But non-destructive entry, what we really like to talk about, that's the real danger. If you have a lock that can be so compromised that you don't even know it happened, then you're in real trouble. That's why I love to give presentations like this. It's a real eye-opener. It's a lot of fun. I really like to grab people from the audience and show them how easy lockpicking is, because it's not hard. It's really very simple how these mechanisms, even the high security locks, even very advanced locks, the actual mechanism is elegantly simple most of the time. And when you see the thinking that goes into designing a very good lock and you can just see it, you say, wow, that's brilliant. I'd love to invest in that. Now that makes sense to me. Because I always love to tell people the same rules apply in the physical world, the rules that you know very well in the software world. You shouldn't trust a product if you can't reverse engineer the code to some degree. If it's open source, that's great. If it's not open source, at least you'd like to see a product that's been audited, that's been reviewed, that's been inspected by people who are smarter than you. You should trust your physical security in the same way. Just because someone comes in with a catalog with beautiful colored photos and says, this is the best one for you, see this nice brass finish, it'll look great on your executive office door. Well, that's fine, but maybe you should have something that you've actually taken apart. If you're buying $1,000 worth of locks and they're all $50, you're going to put them everywhere in your building, buy one extra and just grind it apart, unscrew it, rip it apart, and look under the hood. And if you haven't done that yourself, or if one of your friends who you trust hasn't looked inside of it, you shouldn't trust the security. The other question we always get, besides, what are you doing here, is, are you helping criminals? Should you be talking about this? And it really, I scratch my head when I get that kind of a question. You don't get it a lot at a tech conference, because people here tend to have the right mindset. They know that reverse engineering a firewall, if you're doing it on your own firewall, you're not breaking in someone else's network, you're making your network more secure. The same thing with locks. If you're reverse engineering a lock, if you're trying to break the lock or bypass the lock, you're not doing it to get into your neighbor's facility. You're doing it to keep your neighbor out of yours. The physical world and the digital world operate on exactly the same principles. And there's a story I love to tell that illustrates this. So whether or not lockpicking and lock sport and lock lecturing is about criminal behavior or is it about helping people, you be the judge. There was a lock made by American Lock Company. American is, if you've ever been in a big city, especially in the United States, at night, and you see down the street, all the shops are closed for the evening. And they used to have these big silver padlocks with a big shackle. You'd see them down every block. Those were usually American lock. The American 700 was the most popular one, but they had a number of models. And for a while, that's what everyone bought, or a clone of an American. There's a problem, however, with how that lock worked. It's a beautiful lock in a number of ways. It uses what's called a double ball mechanism instead of a spring bar, so you can't do what's called a shim attack. It's heavy-duty steel. The metallurgy is terrific. You can't saw or cut it. But the way in which the key system interfaced with the control at the top, the control cylinder which allows balls to fall in, the way they interfaced was weak. And a gentleman named Ken at Peterson Tools made a tool, a long hook tool, and it didn't pick the lock. This long hook tool reached all the way up through the lock because there was a gap. That was the problem, there was a gap. Reached all the way through past the pins and could flick the control cylinder and the lock could pop open. It was an amazing bypass. And everyone who saw it, oh! And whenever I demonstrated it, people would go, oh, why are you telling us that? Don't, that's so simple. It doesn't even require training. You're gonna let people who have no skill be able to break into the locks. I said, no, not exactly. Because what happened? American Lock, and this is one reason I like them, they've since been acquired by Master Lock, which makes me like them a little less, but they're still okay. American Lock didn't deny this. They didn't issue press releases lying. They didn't try to sue Ken or anyone else. They just said, well, okay, we see that that's a problem. How can we fix it? And they looked and they said, well, it's this little gap that shouldn't be there. It's right on the top of this cylinder. They produced, mass-produced, these little discs. A little disc with a small cut. And the disc, if you eject, because the lock you can disassemble. It's what's called a removable core lock. You can disassemble the lock and just put this little disc, which blocks the slot. It's called a little blocking wafer. Reassemble the lock, and that flaw is fixed. And they actually had a part number for this little piece of metal, and you could buy it. It was like they released a patch. It's like they download this to upgrade your system to the latest version. So it was nice. People didn't have to buy brand new locks. For a while, they fixed it. And then the same person, Ken, made these metal spikes, which he called Wafer Breakers. And you'd take the American Lock and you'd slip a spike down it, and you'd whack on the spike, and you'd turn, you whack again, and it would just break that wafer in the exact right spot. So then you'd take the hook tool and it would open it up again. And people would say, oh no, there's bad security again, what are we gonna do? And again, the end result, they didn't issue press releases lying. They didn't pretend, oh, well, that's very rare. In the end, American Lock completely redesigned their entire system. And they said, look, eventually you're going to have to buy new locks. Let's think about what's been exposed, put it in the new version, and now, when you walk down every street at night, when you look at vans, work vans with tools in them, you probably don't see the shackle lock. You probably see, it looks like a big silver hockey puck. That's the American 2000. It's also called the shackleless padlock. It has a beautiful steel hasp that you can fit right around it. And every shop, look at the shops in your streets at night. Many of them will have a big collar and this solid steel cylinder right in the middle of it. You can't use any bypass on it. It's a much stronger design. So by exposing bad security, much like in the digital world, it'll upset some people, but those people don't really understand because the end result is better security for all of us.